So as you already know, I'm sure these meetings are recorded, but you might not know that we've been doing more with our YouTube channel. So I encourage you to check that out. We're putting excerpts on there so you can see just a demo or a presentation, a certain segment of a meeting that you missed. And another resource for meeting notes and attendees and other stuff is the wiki. So check that out. Let's see. So these are our communication channels. I should add the wiki here, but I recently added LinkedIn. We might be doing more with LinkedIn. Kind of curious what folks' opinions are on use of LinkedIn by the project, but just kind of like subjectively and anecdotally, I'm seeing more usage of LinkedIn in general. So just wanted to throw that out there. Anyway, we've had a group for a while. All right, let's do a round of intros. So let's see here. So it's our custom here to start with the presenters, like the first name on the presenters list, and unfortunately, that's Amanda. So welcome, Amanda.
Hello, it's good to be here. Well, my name is Amanda. I am an intern at Astronomer this summer. Willy has told me a little bit about the Marquez model. So I was invited to this meeting. I didn't really know what it was, but I was interested and I'm here. Nice to meet people.
Likewise. Great to have you. Okay, next is Harel.
Hi everyone, I'm Harel. I'm on the developer experience team at Astronomer. And yeah, nice to see everyone again.
Thank you. Next is Julian.
Hello, I'm Julian. I'm Chief Architect at Astronomer and the lead for the Open Lineage project.
Thank you. Next is Paweł.
Hello, I'm Paweł. I'm software engineer at Getting Data and the contributor of Marquez and Open Lineage.
Thank you. And last but not least is Willy.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Willy. I'm the project lead for Marquez, and I work at Astronomer on observability.
Thank you. All right. So yeah, this is our monthly community meeting. I didn't mention that, but you know, Amanda raised the point that we didn't really kind of do that at the beginning, and maybe we normally don't. But yeah, this is our monthly community meeting where we talk about updates on ongoing projects, recent releases. Sometimes we have demos, other kinds of presentations, open discussion, and also announcements, which leads me to our next slide, which is our agenda. We'll start with announcements today from Willy and then some updates. I'll talk about our recent release 0.34.0. Willy is going to talk a little bit about something that's in the works to support database retention. We have a demo from Paweł of a recent change. We have a discussion topic and then open discussion. Okay, and so with that, I'll turn it over to Willy.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Yeah, so we got some announcements. The one in particular, so Julian and I will be doing a joint talk at the Data AI and Summit in June. So I think the time is officially available, Julian. So let's see if I have the exact time because it's fresh off the press. So yeah, it's on the 28th of June and it's gonna be at 1:30 Pacific time. So if you're in San Francisco, you want to talk to us, please do. And if you can't make that, the day before, we're actually going to be doing a astronomer or a meetup for Open Lineage. And since I'm in the Bay Area, I'll be there as well. So we're going to be doing it at our astronomer office in SF, where we're going to have the Open Lineage meetup. So come join us. We'll have pizza. We'll have possibly swag. So we'll see if we get some stickers for those that do come. But just if you want to just chat about anything related to Lineage, we'll be there. And more details are coming out, unless there's a blog post that you did, Michael, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'll share the link.
Yeah, please do. And we'll also share the link. So you'll definitely be hearing from us about the talk that Julian will be doing, but it's going to be around cross-platform data lineage with Open Lineage, and we're going to go through a few use cases that's relevant. Also, some things that we built at Astronomer with Open Lineage, so there'll be a slide on that, and also some cool demos. So if you can make it, that'd be awesome. Yeah, in this case, there is ongoing talk. So last or maybe a few community meetings ago, we have been talking about how the Marquez model will begin to collect static level lineage. And Julian, did your proposal get merged, or is that still in? Okay, so got the proposal.
Yeah, it's merged.
It's merged, yeah.
Okay, great. So there's some follow-up discussions that need to happen from there. But anyways, that's going to be on our roadmap. We're going to start accepting the new events, but there are some details that need to be discussed on what kind of changes need to happen to the Marquez model, or at least generally the logic on how we collect events and create runs. Because in this case, the new schema is going to support dataset events and also job events without run information. So what does that mean in the processing logic for the events on the Marquez backend? So I just wanted to point that out, that there's some good progress being made, and thanks, Julian, for bringing the proposal, but also the feedback that everyone has given. And Paweł, I think you'll probably be helping out on the Marquez side. We'll see with some of these changes. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, that's all I wanted to mention. Exciting for me in particular, and to have that progress being made there. Okay.
Yeah, no, it is really exciting, Willy, and something that's, I think, exciting about it in particular is that we've seen community engagement partly drive this change, which is always nice, right? Okay, moving on in the agenda to our recent release, which is 0.34.0. A seemingly small but actually pretty difficult fix to make the Postgres bump work instead of reflect the latest Marquez version. So all of these links are going to be on the wiki for you to check out: the release notes, the change log, the commit diff, and the Maven. Sorry, I'm blanking on the packages.
Right. And I think the thing to point out is that within past month, like, we've been working on some big changes that are coming in the next release. So this one was a bit light, but Michael, as you were saying, I actually found this one pretty annoying. It doesn't necessarily affect the code, the release as a whole, or like the distribution of Marquez, but it was mostly in our release process. So I thought it would be appropriate to point this out, because we had a really simple regex that became complicated to try to bump the version in our values YAML. And you think that'd be simple, but look at the PR and you're like, anyways, there was a lot of inconsistencies with the releases and people trying out the Helm chart and not having the correct Postgres version. And I eventually said, you know what, let's just fix this. So now you're not going to have that issue where you're testing out Marquez in the Helm chart and you want to bring the Postgres or pull in the Postgres chart to deploy a in-memory Postgres instance for your Marquez deployment, it's not going to error out that the version is wrong. So kind of a weird bug, but it has been fixed.
Thanks. Our next topic is Willy's database retention.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michael. Let me share my, if you want to hand over the screen, thanks. Okay, so for one, I've already gotten some great feedback. I wish there was a bit more progress that I've made. I think we wanted this to be merged a bit sooner, but there has been some really good feedback. And I did post in the community channel about the PR to the community to see if anyone was interested to at least looking over the changes or providing feedback. But I did get some from Paweł, and Julie and I, we have talked about a few things we would like to change. But one in particular, before I even go into the config and like the different options, I do want to point out something that Paweł, you pointed out, which I thought was it was a very good observation. I think I was just at a point where, for some context, before maybe we even go into that, I want to find where are you? Yes, I think, yes, this is the one, perfect. But the one thing I wanted to point out is there's a retention or storage issue that we've seen Marquez have. So Marquez doesn't have the ability to configure data retention. So if you're collecting metadata, you're going to be storing it infinitely. Now, the reason we did that, was when we originally worked on Marquez at WeWork, it was metadata should be around, and you want to create those when you create a link, and it's, let's say because jobs get added, jobs get deleted, but you want to still have that at some point in time a snapshot of what your infrastructure looked like from a couple databases to possibly hundreds. And within that time period, there's dependencies within workflows, new data sets are added. So Marquez was a way to just capture all that and log it and just keep it around. And then we got to the point where there was a soft delete. There's soft deletes, that API that was contributed. And at least at that point, you could start removing dependent or trimming the lineage graph because it's just way too complicated, or jobs just don't exist anymore. Let's say if you're running some test jobs, or you're testing out something and that workflow is no longer around and it's just polluting the lineage graph. But then there's the extreme case now where Marquez is just constantly collecting this information. Facets get added to open lineage, which kind of explodes the size of the database. So one real world example is you start seeing space in this, so free storage space is quickly being consumed. Then you bump up the database, you have free storage, and then over time, space gets consumed again. And then there's a period where you're like, you know what, I need to buy myself some time. Let me just throw money at the problem. And that only takes you so far. So at this point, we have to be a bit more practical with how of a solution here. So you're not going to keep data around in the database for years. It could be monthly, or it could be just for a couple weeks. But then you have cold storage. Usually, you have backups, and you could export this data in S3. So what we kind of decided on was there's going to be a way to apply retention policy. So I will scroll down. There's a logic that I added based off the feedback that Paweł, you've given. So I'm kind of like jumping around a little bit, but I wanted to give context. There's some really good feedback that you had around. For me, the way I was thinking about it, just because, operating Marquez in production, I was like, I just want data to be trimmed off. And, if it's over a certain period of time, I just want data to be removed. But there is the case of the lineage graph itself. So that was a bit of a blind spot. And Paweł, thanks for pointing that out. And what that means is if you start deleting data sets that are updated, because I was looking at the created at time, But if you look at the updated add time for a data set, so here the first rule is if I will delete a data set if the last time it was updated was less than the retention policy. That was so is it older than what it's expected? So if it's older than 30 days, we should delete it. And that's like the best case scenario because all child tables will just be deleted. So you'll delete the versions, you'll delete the fields, so anything that was derived from that table will be deleted. But there's also the case where if the data set, the updated at column it's still going to be, oh wait, I think I have this, okay, I have this mixed up. I think it's supposed to be the other way around, but just know, okay, if it hasn't been updated in more than 30 days, we're going to delete it. I'm sorry, we're not going to delete it. So we have to look at the data set versions, and maybe I should just update this in real time. Sorry, guys.
No worries. So it's just on one end you have a date, on the other end you have a duration. So you
I
can't
think this
like either way it's not working, right? Because
exactly, yeah.
it's the difference between today and updated at, right? It's kind of older than or something.
That makes more sense. So updated at is
yeah, older than
Oh.
right, something.
It's newer than or oh wait. I think this is right. Yes. And let me just make those changes here so that way as I go through it, this is older than and this is newer than. I'll figure out like better wording. All right, thanks, Julian. There's still this one here. But anyways, if it's older than the retention in days, it will delete it. And the other instance is that there are a lot of versions that are being created, both for jobs and for data sets. So what you first look at is, okay, the data set is still around, but the logic will then be, let's start trimming away the data set versions. Right now, there's no real way to say, keep around only 2 versions or 50 versions. I think we're thinking about extending that configuration, but for the default, it's if the data set has been updated recently, start trimming away the data set versions. And that same logic will be applied to jobs, but jobs are a little bit more unique. So again, jobs will delete everything because it doesn't exist anymore. But in the case of job versions, you're not only deleting jobs, but you're also deleting the runs, which is the most expensive table that we have. So we're gonna also start trimming away at the runs table. And we do, every job version is associated with a run. So there's a lot of cleanup that we can do there, and which at least we'll get it to a good baseline to say that we're not going to keep more than we need in Marquez. Now, the 2 options that we have, we're always going to do the config base just because that's how the deployments happen and how you could configure the Marquez backend. But the 3 different parameters that you have to work with. One, under DB retention, you're going to provide a frequency in minutes. So this is going to be a thread or a separate process that runs in the Marquez server. So you can have you have 2 options. If you just want to have a lightweight retention policy that you don't want to manage and is hooked up into the application lifecycle, you can specify how often you want it to run. And this will be run the retention policy every X minutes. The chunk size, we could figure out what a better name is, but in order to optimize the deletion policy and not lock tables, we process things in chunks, and that will help. Actually, it's very similar to how you did the migration, Paweł, if you remember with the fastest table. And then also the most important thing is just how long do you want to keep at a maximum, how long do you want to keep the data around? So those are going to be the 3 parameters that you can tune. If you don't want this, by default, it's not enabled. But if you don't want it and you just want to turn it off, just comment out that section in your config file. And of course, the same logic is used in the CLI. So if you want to run this scheduled and using maybe Airflow or using some other scheduler, or even Kubernetes, you are able to do that just by running the jar. So the parameters are going to be the same. You just provide the DB retention command, give it the retention in days and the file, which will have all the connection details to your database, and you'll be able to run this on a schedule or just a one-time process if it's just like an admin task that you want to do. And if you do that, I do have some example output. You'll see that it's applying the retention of 14 days to the jobs, to the data sets and the lineage events table. The output's going to look a little bit different because of the versions and runs that we're going to be deleting. And I need to update that output. And then there's also, I've gotten feedback from, I've also gotten feedback from the, was it Tatiana? Yeah, so Tatiana, one of my new teammates, and she recommended dry runs. So I'm trying to think how, it's not a bad idea. I just don't know if it's actually possible. It could be, it might be a follow-up thing, but she does make a good point that before you run this, you probably want to see how much data you're deleting. And that would be a nice thing to have. But I just wanted to run through that and kind of tell you where things are and what the logic is going to look like. I've gotten some great feedback so far. The goal is to, so we're testing this internally at Astronomer, but the goal is to have this merge fairly soon and cut a release, because next week, I think we want to start kind of using a lot of this in production to help out with some of our workloads and optimizing a few performance issues that we're seeing. So it's pretty critical to us, but we've also been talking to another company that we've been working with that is having a similar problem, and they've been giving us feedback on how to properly, or what they're looking for in terms of configuration and what makes sense for them. But yeah, that's the PR. Thanks everyone for the feedback, and hopefully we can get this merged soon. Yeah, so just to end with what's left, I do need to update the SQL that's applying the retention policy, but I've been spending a significant amount of time with the test suite, because we do want to get this right. You don't want to delete data that you're not supposed to. So that's what's currently holding things up. So there'll be an analysis section in the PR talking about what was the before and after and the performance improvements. So we want to provide a detailed analysis of when we apply the retention policy.
Cool.
Right, Mike?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Michael, back to you.
I was going to say, are there any questions? So, cool.
Just wanted to ask, how will it behave on the input data sets that are not frequently updated, like imagine a dictionary table with US states that doesn't get modified often, but is used all the time?
That's a good point. You could, the inputs table, we could run a query to see, because it's not going to be that, you're right. It's going to be the static table that doesn't get updated often, but there are runs that are constantly using that, and new runs are being created. That's where we would probably run, we would do that check. It's like, well, has any jobs or any runs recently used this data set? I think that's an additional logic that we should add. And Paweł added again with some great questions. So yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. And our next item is Paweł's. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I will try to demo the input output facets that we were able to merge some time ago. So perhaps you're familiar with open lineage events. So it contains 4 major components, like some run information, job information, inputs and outputs, and some information about the input and output data sets. And actually, these 4 major components are not disjoint. So you may think of a facet that should contain the number of nulls that were available in the output dataset. So on one hand, it's the property, it's an attribute of a dataset, but actually it simply correlates with a particular run. And for those kind of information, OpenLinux schema introduced input facets and output facets, and actually Marquez did not support it. So some time ago, I implemented the support for it, and I would like to demo it. And yeah, let me know if you see my Safari browser.
Yep.
Yeah, so you should see the Jupyter notebook, and it's a notebook that uses Python client of OpenLinux that creates OpenLinux events, emits them to Marquez, and then asks Marquez API to get some information back. So yeah, first we check if the Marquez is okay, and then we create some event, and the event will contain a schema, which is a schema dataset facet, and will contain some input facets like data quality metrics input dataset facet, which allows us to define per column how many nulls were there, how many distinct count was there, and how many rows were within a data set. And such information can be included within an event. So at this point here, we create the run event, which has some run information, job information, and those input and output facets. And once we have an event, we can emit it to Marquez. Yeah, and what should happen now? So I mean, if you're expecting any kind of magic, there's no chance you will see it, because it's there's no magic here. It's just that when you return a data set, it will not contain the input and output facets. This is the JSON with a data set. It has some schema fields, and within the facet section, it has just schema. And it is because the data quality matrix is not, or we don't consider it as an attribute of dataset, as an attribute of dataset within a context of a particular run. So when you ask for a dataset, we don't return it. If we look at the event that was emitted, so we look at the last emitted event, we see that this information is contained in a form of input facets, and also output facets, which is a part of a data set, because for the OpenLinux event, it's more convenient to send it within the dataset section. However, when requesting Marquez, it will be returned as a part of a run. So if we ask for a particular run, the run will have input dataset versions that has information on the particular version on the input dataset and according to related to the version. So it returns dataset version ID and facets of this particular dataset version, because dataset version is related to a run and it contains data quality metrics. So I don't know if you're really good at reading JSONs that someone's scrolling in front of your eyes, but it's been a requested feature, and it wasn't implemented before because it's somewhere in between the runs and the data sets. And although we send an information as a part of a data set with an OpenLinux event, we return it in Marquez as a part of run. Are there any questions related to that?
No, but I just want to say that, you know, if you look at the community channel or just and people I talk to, they do ask about how they could attach data quality facets to their data sets, and the fact that this is now part of the run and also part of the version is something that, you know, we run our own individual queries in Astronomer and observability to get that information, and I'm wondering how we can start benefiting from this new API that's available. So just great work. And I know we went back and forth a little bit about naming, but it looks really good. And it,
So
and
thank you, Willy, for your help. Yeah, and for
Yeah.
this guy for talking to me how to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm,
and
absolutely.
contributing to that.
I like it. It's great.
And you'd also see the column level, if there was column level facets as well, you would see them there, as well as the data quality. In this case, your example is data quality, but you'd see the column level. Or is that going to be the raw facet, or would that be some attached differently?
We send column lineage as a part of data facets. So
Okay.
the facets of a data set, not input facets.
Right. Okay.
Oh, really cool. Thank you, Paweł. We've got a discussion item. That's our next agenda item. And Willy, do you want to talk about compaction?
I think I just wanted to bring up just more like a brainstorming thing that what I've seen, and we don't have to go in like super in depth, but you know, what we end up seeing is that in the Marquez model, there's a lot of the same data. And is there something that we can do in order to avoid duplicating a lot of that data? Can we optimize the model in some way where if a new dataset version is created because an open range event comes in and the schema hasn't changed, do we need to write that every single time? I just wanted to bring that up. I haven't thought too in depth about it. All I know is there are some customers that have very, very large or wide data sets, and they get copied every time, and that's JSON. So there's just a lot of data that we're collecting. So on top of the data retention, there's also this extra piece where it's just a lot of the same data that sits around. So I just wanted to bring that up. I haven't given it too much thought to.
Is the data set field written all the time, even if it's the same?
Yeah. And that has a lot to do with our version, the way we version data sets. So you want to say a data set had these fields, or data set version had these fields. So if you upload it again and provide it again along with a run, that run is assumed to have touched the data set. So we create another version, which also means we copy the fields again. But what if we say, well, hold on, the version that we received before had the same schema. Can we just kind of have like a pointer to those fields? I don't know. This is something to think about. Yeah. I just want to bring that up.
All right. Our last item today is open discussion. So if anyone on the call has a question or proposed change, anything else, feel free to bring it up. All right. Well, great to see everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Paweł, for the demo. Thanks, Willy, as always.
And I do have one thing I want to share. We didn't talk about so we talked about some talks that I was doing with Julian, but before us, there is a really great talk by Paweł at Buzzwords, and I think it's June 18th to it's like mid-June. I don't have
first. Yeah.
Yeah. So
good that you reminded us. We need to prepare it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. But I'm not sure if it's going to be streamed. But this is going to be an amazing talk. So hopefully it is, and I'd love to attend it, and virtually, but I couldn't make it out in person.
Recorded, and then you can watch the recorded afterwards.
Yeah. So
it's a nice venue.
Okay.
Another thing. Sorry. So one thing I was thinking, like looking at what Paweł was showing, it would be nice to be able to we have version IDs, run IDs in the thing, and now we have page for all those things in those in the JSON. So it'd be nice to be clickable, right? And just go from traverse the graph this way. Just an idea was thinking about when watching it.
Even like get extra calls to Marquez. So when you click on ID, you open another JSON.
Yeah, I guess in Marquez you already have a page for the dataset version, right? And for the event and for the job version. So you could go, and we have the information of what run produces version. So you could go to the job version. You could navigate to this. It's in there. So yeah, no, just this up. I know, I'm not trying to add more work on the thing. It would be nice. Well, that's it. Sorry for, like Michael was trying to conclude and then the thing come afterwards. Sorry with that, Michael.
Well, thanks everybody. And hope to see you all next month.
Great.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.